What if the most important stories of Middle-earth are not the ones written in the chronicles? We will peek behind the curtain of grand events to tell the stories left in the shadows, about the gleam of a polished elven blade, about the last piece of lembas, bread shared between friends, and about the silence of Strider's night camp under the quiet stars. Tell us in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. And now, get comfortable. Imagine the dim light of a campfire, and let's listen to these whispers from the past together. Have you ever really stopped to think about what it actually means to truly, deeply care for something that stood the test of centuries? Something that's absorbed the echoes of countless days and nights through history? What if it wasn't just some object, but a living, breathing embodiment of memory? Something silent, yet incredibly sharp in its essence? Now picture this. Not just any sword, but an elven blade. And it's not just about keeping it polished. It's about a ritual, ancient and sacred, that ties the present moment right back to the deepest past. We're not in some loud, clangy forge, sparks flying from the hammer, right? And we're definitely not on a blood-soaked battlefield where a blade screams its fury. No, this is different. This is a quiet, almost sacred sort of armory. The light in here? It's soft, diffused, just filtering through tall, arched windows, catching these tiny dust motes dancing in the air, looking like little golden stars. And the smell. Oh, there's this faint, ancient aroma of old leather, some precious, aged wood, and, yeah, that undeniable scent of clean, perfectly kept metal. It's a space where time genuinely feels like it slows down, where every little rustle, every tiny sound seems amplified, becoming part of this whole meditative silence. Right in the very center of this calm, serene space, there's an elf sitting before a low, dark oak table, all polished and gleaming. His movements, they're just so refined, so full of a quiet calm and confidence, like every single gesture he makes is part of some incredibly ancient dance. You look into his eyes, deep and wise, and you can tell he's seen ages change, civilizations rise and fall. There's a boundless patience there, a real understanding of the flow of time that, honestly, is just beyond what any mortal could grasp. See, this isn't a warrior gearing up for an instant battle. This is more like a guardian, maybe even a kind of priest, performing a truly sacred rite, something that utterly connects him to the deep heritage of his people. And there, right before him, lies the blade. It's unassuming. It doesn't have any overly flashy adornments, but oh my, it's just impeccably elegant. This isn't one of those swords that screams its power with some huge flashy gleam. No, its true beauty is in its function, in the absolute perfection of its lines. It just has this simple, yet incredibly profound grace, typical of every truly elven creation. This blade, it almost seems to whisper stories of a long, long journey, of so many hands that have held it, of literally hundreds of years of faithful service. Maybe it's one of the very first swords ever forged way back in the dawn days of the Elven nation. Or perhaps it's a blade passed down through countless generations, each owner leaving their mark, every single moment spent in its power. It's more than just a tool, truly. It's a companion, a silent witness, a confidant who holds secrets and knows stories that we humans, well, we can only ever dream of guessing. So, first things first, the elf gently takes up the scabbard. And honestly, it's every bit as important as the blade itself, right? Because it's its cradle, its protector, its home. And then, so carefully, with this almost reverent tenderness, he draws the sword. You can barely hear it, just this almost inaudible rustle of steel leaving its sheath. It's like a soft sigh, or maybe the quietest whisper of something waking up. It's definitely not a harsh scrape, not at all, but rather this incredibly soft, smooth glide. It's a testament, you realize, to a perfect fit, and to so many centuries spent together. Next, he reaches for this cloth, the softest linen you can imagine. Maybe it's woven from threads blessed by forest spirits, or maybe it's just, like, the absolute finest, densest linen out there. He passes it over the blade, just so gently wiping away any invisible dust that might have settled, even in this super protected space. It's more than just cleaning. It's this very first delicate touch that truly establishes the connection between the guardian and his precious charge. And then, a few drops of a very special oil. Seriously, this isn't just some everyday weapon oil you'd pick up at the nearest shop, not even close. This oil, it could have been prepared following ancient secret recipes, maybe with rare herbs that only grow super deep in elven forests, or perhaps distilled right from the heartwood of truly ancient trees. It smells incredible, forest freshness, with a faint hint of moss and earth, and this subtle, sweet aroma of resin. The elf applies it to the blade, spreading it so evenly, just a thin, perfect layer across the whole surface. And the oil, it just instantly soaks into the steel's tiniest pores, just nourishing it, protecting it from moisture and corrosion. It's almost like a healing balm for a living being, really. Now, this is where the real magic, the polishing itself, begins. This part, it's absolutely the central element of the whole ritual, demanding total concentration and, absolute precision. The elf takes another fresh, perfectly clean piece of linen cloth and starts to slowly, so slowly, move it in circular motions, polishing the blade's surface. Every single centimeter, every millimeter of that blade gets his complete, undivided attention. His movements are so even, just repeating over and over, building this almost hypnotic rhythm that just echoes softly in the silence. And just watching, under the elf's hands, you see the blade slowly, gradually transform. That dull surface, it just comes alive, suddenly reflecting light, as if the steel itself is starting to glow from deep inside. This mirror polish isn't just about bringing back the blade's shine. Oh no, it's about revealing its true, innermost soul. On the blade's surface, you can literally see a perfect reflection of the world. Like the edge itself becomes this flawless portal to another dimension where all those little distortions just vanish. Each circular stroke of the cloth meticulously removes the slightest, most invisible traces of residue, truly revealing the metal's amazing depth. There are almost no sounds, just this soft rustle of the cloth gliding over the steel, and maybe, just maybe, an almost inaudible sigh from this diligent worker, all merging into the quiet tranquility. Our elf, he simply forgets no detail. None. He meticulously cleans every single groove. Those fullers, they're designed to lighten the blade and also increase its strength. Then he carefully polishes the hilt, checking its wrapping, making absolutely sure to remove every tiny speck of dust. From there, he moves to the guard, thoroughly cleaning its delicate curves and any intricate carvings it might have. And finally, the pommel. That has to be perfectly smooth, absolutely, so it won't cause any hindrance during combat. Seriously, every notch, every facet, Every little indentation is carefully inspected and processed, ensuring the entire blade remains without a single flaw, not even the tiniest blemish. Once the polishing is finally complete, the elf lifts the blade. He holds it horizontally, just slowly turning it, letting the light truly dance and play on its surface. He's examining every single section so carefully, searching for even the tiniest scratch, or a tarnish that's so faint it's practically invisible to any ordinary person's eye. His sight, it's so incredibly keen, he can spot defects that would totally escape even the most attentive mortals. Only when he's absolutely, completely satisfied with the flawless perfection of the surface, only then does he move to what's next. Then, the elf runs his fingertips along the blade, feeling its cool smoothness, its incredible, perfect sharpness. This isn't just some readiness check. It's a moment of really deep, intimate connection. The blade's weight in his hand, it feels just perfect, as if it's this natural extension of his own body. The balance is just impeccable. And this sensation, it's not merely like a tactile perception of metal. No, it's a true, profound awareness of the living history held within this weapon. He can actually feel the energy of past battles pulsating inside it, the wisdom of ancient masters who shaped it, and the very spirit of everyone who has ever held it. This ritual, you quickly realize, is so much more than just keeping a tool in working order. It really is a deep meditation. It lets the elf just delve into profound reflections about the past, the future, and his own unique place in this vast world. It's an act of pure respect, for incredible craftsmanship, for ancient heritage, and even for life itself, which this very blade has protected countless times. It's also a way to absolutely ensure that the blade is always ready, always perfectly sharp, always capable of fulfilling its ultimate purpose, whether that's defending the innocent or perhaps restoring balance to the world. It's this silent promise of readiness, constantly passing from the guardian to the guarded, and then right back again. So, this elven blade isn't just some piece of metal. Not at all. It's a living, breathing embodiment of memory itself, a keeper of truly ancient secrets, a silent guardian of eternal, unwavering readiness. It literally embodies not only the incredible skill of elven smiths, but also that boundless patience so inherent to a long-lived race, the absolute precision with which they approach any task, and their rock-solid, unwavering devotion to their cherished ideals. It pretty much encapsulates their deep connection to nature, their unique understanding of beauty, and their never-ending, eternal pursuit of sheer perfection. Finally, when the ritual is done, absolutely complete, the blade returns to its scabbard with that very same quiet, reverent rustle it made when it was first drawn. But now, it's not just clean. Oh no, it's renewed, absolutely charged with this fresh energy, ready to wait for however long it needs to, or to spring into action in an instant, the very moment its call summons. The tranquility, the sheer purity of its blade, it just perfectly reflects the tranquility and purity of its guardian's own spirit. Now, I'm actually really curious about something. Is there an item in your own life that you care for with this kind of meticulous attention? With such a deep, deep sense of connection? What serves as a similar symbol of history, of readiness, of profound personal meaning for you? Please, share your thoughts in the comments down below. I would genuinely love to read your stories. And hey, don't forget to hit that like button on this video if you enjoyed our little narrative. And of course, definitely subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any new dives into these amazing worlds and their many mysteries. Ever stop to think about what happens when the whole world just goes quiet? When the streets melt into this deep velvety darkness? That's when something really special starts. A kind of work that doesn't just demand silence. It's about a very particular, almost primal sound. Night, you see, has this amazing way of muting all the unnecessary noise, stripping away the daily worries, leaving only the raw, essential rhythms. Today, we're taking a journey. Not just any journey, but to a place where these rhythms aren't some distant hum. Oh no, they're the actual heartbeat of existence, the very foundation of everything. It's a spot where searing heat and stubborn metal dance together in age-old ballet. And time here, it's not about those little ticking clocks. It's measured by the powerful, tireless, rhythmic thud of a hammer and the captivating, living glow of coals. We're in a forge, sure, but calling it just a workspace feels wrong. This place, it's a realm where true mastery doesn't just show itself. It explodes in its purest, most concentrated, almost sacred form. You can feel centuries of tradition, passed down through the sheer touch of fire and metal. And our main character tonight? Well, he's an orc, a giant of a being whose powerful hands seem to speak the language of fire and iron better than anyone. His name is Grom, and his night shift is just kicking off. Get ready for a deep, deep dive into his craft, a journey into sensations that are ancient, almost sacred, long forgotten, yet utterly, vibrantly alive. Outside those sturdy forge walls, it's a whole other story. A deep, silent, almost touchable darkness just blankets everything. So thick, it seems to swallow every sound, every little flicker of light. Maybe a few lonely stars glimmer way up high, or if you're lucky, a sliver of moon breaks through, painting ghostly, cold shadows on the old buildings nearby. But step inside the forge? Oh boy, that's a completely different world. It's a narrative etched in pure heat, vibrant light, and raw sound. Right here, in this stony, beating heart, life truly, truly burns. The very first thing that hits you when Grom shoves open that heavy, iron-bound oak door isn't even a smell. Not at first. It's this massive, all-encompassing, rich sensation. A wave of warmth that just wraps around you, seeping right under your clothes, bringing with it the scent of smoldering coal, red-hot metal, that sharp, acrid smoke, and yeah, salty sweat. And then, of course, the sound. You barely hear it at first, just a whisper. But it's persistent, like a distant, steady pulse, that quiet crackle and hiss from the glowing coals in the hearth. It's not just a sound, it's alive. It's the deep, slow breath of some ancient, sleeping beast. Grom himself? He's a towering, burly orc. Honestly, his sheer size and those massive shoulders look like they were forged from the very same iron he works with. His muscles? They're taut as those old, seasoned ropes, showing off years of heavy, honest labor. His skin, it's like leather, tanned by time, seems totally impervious to the heat and sparks flying around. And his eyes, usually so stern, right now they glow with this deep, almost mystical concentration. Grom's not one for many words, you know. His words are actually his actions. His poetry is the ringing of his hammer. And his wisdom? That's all in the way his hands move. He walks towards the hearth, his steps so confident, every movement surprisingly fluid, incredibly economical. It's like he's just part of one giant, perfectly oiled machine. No fuss, not a single wasted gesture, just pure, unwavering determination. His first move? He rekindles the coals. The bellows, they're old, enormous, worn, like the ancient lungs of the forge itself. They let out this deep, measured, almost guttural low sigh. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. This isn't just some technical thing, not just a sound. This rhythm, it's the absolute foundation of his entire night's work. It's steady, unwavering heartbeat. He starts slow at first, almost gently, gradually picking up the pace, as if he's waking some colossal dormant power. And then, wow. That faint, dull glow on the coals ignites into this bright, pulsating blaze. And then, boom, into a wild, dancing, sparking flame. The flame truly comes alive, like some ancient dragon finally stirring from a long, long slumber. Tongues of fire just leap within the hearth, casting these strange, shimmering shadows all over the stone walls and onto Grom's intensely focused face, now almost bronzed by the fire's incredible glow. The air around him just thickens with heat, becoming so heavy you can almost feel it. And the scent? That burning coal mixes with a subtle hint of sulfur and iron, creating this unique, absolutely incomparable bouquet of the forge. He pulls out a raw piece of metal. Now, today, it's not some gleaming, deadly sword or a terrifying battle axe. No, its true purpose is entirely different. Today, Grom is busy crafting something simpler, but you know what? Perhaps no less, and sometimes far more, vital to the everyday lives of ordinary folk. Maybe it will become sturdy clamps for a bridge beam, allowing weary travelers to safely cross raging rivers. Or perhaps, just maybe, it'll be a new, perfectly balanced rim for a cartwheel, something absolutely essential, without which a merchant simply can't transport their goods to the bustling market. Or what about a durable door hinge? One that will serve faithfully for decades, preserving the quiet peace and warmth of a family home. Something that will serve the world reliably, quietly, yet firmly, forming this unseen, utterly crucial foundation of everyday life. He carefully places this raw, featureless piece of iron right into the fiery heart of that blazing inferno. The heat just swallows it from all sides, making the metal glow first a dull, deep red, then cherry, transitioning to a blood orange, almost living hue, and finally, a dazzling, glowing yellow-orange. The metal, it seems to breathe, absorbing the flame's energy, becoming soft and malleable, just like clay. This, right here, is a moment of true transformation, a process Grom understands down to the finest, most intricate nuances. Grom waits. His gaze, though intensely focused, is strangely relaxed, fixed on the hearth, almost as if he can literally see the processes happening deep within the metal's very structure. When the moment is right, and Grom determines this time unerringly, not by any clock, but by the precise color and behavior of the metal itself, he extracts the glowing piece with his long, massive tongs. The air around him practically ignites from the radiating heat, creating these small, visible heat waves shimmering and dancing above the glowing workpiece. And now, the main dance of the forge, the dance of hammer and anvil, truly begins. That hammer, heavy, perfectly balanced, it's not just a tool. It becomes a living extension of his mighty arm. He raises it high, then brings it down with measured, unyielding force. The very first blow, a deep, booming clang that echoes throughout the vast, cavernous space. The metal responds, like a living creature, almost sighing under the impact. The second blow, sharper, clearer. The third, even clearer, filling the forge with its own unique, powerful symphony. The rhythm builds, transforming into this pulsating, hypnotic, ancient mantra. Din-dong, din-dong, din-dong. This isn't just a striking sound. No, this is music. The music of creation, of pure labor, of age-old mastery. With each powerful strike, Grom isn't just changing the metal's shape, He's actually imbuing it with a part of himself. His immense strength, his endless patience, his deep, almost intuitive understanding of the raw material. Sparks fly in all directions, just like tiny, fleeting meteors, illuminating brief, intense moments of his work, leaving behind only a faint, smoky trail. Grom's face, glistening with sweat, is bathed in the metal's fierce glow, giving him this stern, almost monumental expression. He feels absolutely no fatigue. His entire consciousness is completely absorbed by his purpose. The metal under that hammer is malleable, yes, like clay, but only for a short, incredibly precious time. It changes shape, stretches, compresses, totally obedient to the unyielding will of the master. Each single blow is a crucial step towards completion, towards the perfect, intended form. He turns the workpiece, examining it again and again, noticing even the smallest details, foreseeing exactly how the metal will behave next, how it will react to the next strike, to its next immersion back into the fire. Sparks shower down onto the earthen floor, cooling and vanishing almost instantly, leaving behind only that faint, unique scent of sulfur and hot iron. The hammer's rhythm, it just pulsates, sometimes slowing, sometimes accelerating, filling the entire forge, becoming its very breath. It is the rhythm of life itself, the rhythm of labor that connects centuries and generations, whispering stories of ancestors, echoing through time. This isn't some aggressive, chaotic banging. Oh no. It is the rhythm of deep, profound concentration, almost a meditation, a descent into a trance-like state. Grom is absolutely in this state of complete immersion, where truly nothing else matters. Only he, the stubborn metal, the powerful hammer, the steady anvil, and that all-consuming fire. In this moment, he's not just an orc blacksmith. He is an intrinsic part of this ancient, continuous process, forging raw, unrefined matter into something useful, something durable, something beautiful in its unyielding functionality. His hands move with unwavering confidence, repeating movements practiced thousands, tens of thousands of times, yet each time feels like a new challenge, a new opportunity to feel the metal, to understand it, to bend it completely to his will. The noise of the city, the endless hustle of daily life, the worries of the outside world, all of it remains far beyond the forge's heavy, thick walls. Here, in this fiery heart of the night, its own special, primal order absolutely prevails. And this order, it's set by Grom, with his patience, his incredible strength, and his boundless dedication to his craft. When the metal starts to cool, losing its vibrant glow and turning a dull, deep red like a dying ember, Grom gently returns it to the hearth. Again, that slow, measured breath of the bellows. Again, the rising, all-consuming heat. This cycle, it just repeats again and again, tirelessly. Heating, forging, heating, forging, like an ancient, endless dance. Sometimes he plunges the hot metal into a large, soot-stained tank of water, and then the forge is filled with this incredible hiss. A loud, dramatic, steam-filled hiss, as if the metal is exhaling all its internal energy, or, perhaps, conversely, inhaling new, vital life. A cloud of thick, humid, hot steam rises all the way to the high ceiling, dancing playfully in the light rays penetrating from the hearth. And now, you see a shining, hardened surface, ready for the next crucial stage of processing. The water in the tank heats up, becoming warm, almost boiling from the frequent immersions of the hot metal, and the air fills with that unmistakable scent of ozone. This isn't just simple cooling. It is the most important part of the hardening process, giving the metal the necessary hardness, strength, and invulnerability. Each hiss, it's the completion of one tiny microstage and the preparation for the next. It's confirmation that the entire process is moving along exactly as it should. After each immersion, Grom carefully inspects the workpiece. He doesn't just see it. Not really. He feels it. He knows it intimately. The curves, the thickness, the absolute uniformity. He can detect the slightest inaccuracy with just a glance, with a single touch of his strong, calloused fingers. It's almost like he's engaged in a silent, profound dialogue with the metal, understanding its resistance and its malleability. Then, back to the anvil. Perhaps now he uses a smaller hammer, one specifically designed for more delicate, intricate work, for imparting that final, perfect shape, or for meticulous surface leveling. The ringing becomes higher, clearer, almost crystalline, filling the forge with different, more subtle nuances. This is the sound of refinement, of polishing, of painstaking perfection. Time, you realize, flows totally differently in this forge. Clocks on the wall, if they even bothered to hang here, would be utterly meaningless. Here, time is truly measured by the light of the flame, by the rhythmic beat of hammer blows, by the energetic hiss of water. It sometimes stretches out endlessly, sometimes compresses into an instant, but it's always subject to the unhurried yet relentlessly precise rhythm of the craft. Grom neither rushes nor wastes a single second. He moves with an astonishing efficiency unique to only the truest masters. His movements, though incredibly powerful, are full of unbelievable precision. He wastes no unnecessary energy whatsoever. Every single strike achieves its goal, changing the metal exactly as intended. And now, finally, the form truly begins to emerge. From a rough, raw piece of plain iron, under Grom's tireless, incredibly skilled hands, something definite is born. Something with a clear, undeniable purpose. Perhaps it will be an elegant, yet remarkably durable door handle that will serve for decades, outliving its original owners and witnessing many generations. Or perhaps it will be a simple but absolutely indispensable part for a complex agricultural tool, ensuring abundant harvests and the prosperity of an entire settlement. Grom doesn't strive for external showiness, for some flashy design. His main, overriding goal is pure functionality, impeccable durability, absolute reliability. He knows, deep down, that true beauty isn't found in ornamentation, but in unyielding quality, in the object's ability to perform its task flawlessly, year after year. Sweat streams down his temples, leaving wet, glistening trails on his stern, weather-beaten skin. His eyes never, ever leave the metal. They see not just iron, but the incredible potential inherent in it by nature itself, and the entire journey that this metal has already taken and still has to go. This is a deep, almost intimate connection between master and material, a bond rooted in the depths of centuries, a true partnership. He feels the metal vibrating beneath his hands, how it responds to every movement, to every single vibration of the hammer. The hearth continues to burn, emitting its deep, captivating, almost hypnotic light. The coals within it aren't just fuel. They are the true heart of the forge, its very beating pulse, the source of life for the metal he works. Their deep, pulsating red glow is utterly mesmerizing. It's honestly impossible to tear your gaze away. In this light, the world beyond the forge simply ceases to exist. There is only Grom, his trusty tools, his mighty will, and the metal waiting patiently for its final transformation. The sounds of the forge, though powerful, somehow merge into a single, surprisingly harmonious symphony. The pulse of the bellows, the strong clang of the hammer, the sharp hiss of the water, all of it creates a unique soundscape that can only truly be understood and appreciated by those who live by it, who breathe it with every fiber of their being. This is not just noise. This is not chaos at all. This is order, deep and ancient, like the earth itself. Grom takes a small, well-deserved break. He steps away from the anvil, but his gaze remains fixed, unwavering, on the barely cooling, shaping workpiece. He wipes sweat from his brow, takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with air infused with the rich scent of smoke, metal, and ozone. This brief moment of silence, interrupted only by the faint, comforting crackle of coals, allows him to fully assess the work done, to feel its absolute completeness. He is satisfied. He doesn't smile. His face remains stern, but his eyes reveal a deep, calm satisfaction. It's the profound satisfaction of a job truly well done, of bringing an abstract idea to fruition in tangible, material form, of giving a formless piece of metal true meaning. This, right here, is what keeps him here night after night, makes him return to the hearth again and again. He knows that tomorrow, when the sun rises over the world, his work will serve people, perform its vital function, be a crucial part of life's grand, intricate mosaic. And this, for Grom, is his most valuable, his most significant reward. Night slowly, gracefully gives way to dawn. Outside the window, a gray, cool light begins to break through, gradually dispelling the last vestiges of darkness, bringing with it the very first, faint sounds of a waking world. Grom puts the finishing touch on his last piece, giving it its final polish. He carefully places it in water for a final cooling, and that characteristic farewell hiss fills the forge one last time, as if bidding the long night a solemn goodbye. He puts away his tools, carefully returning the hammers to their designated places. The forge, so recently full of fire, sound, and raw energy, gradually falls silent. Only the coals in the hearth slowly burn out, emitting their last, lingering gleams of light. Their heat, once fierce, now becomes gentle and almost lulling. Grom surveys his night's work. Several finished pieces lie on the sturdy table. Simple, at first glance, but incredibly strong, unfailingly reliable, and each one with its own untold story, forged in fierce fire and stubborn iron. These aren't just mere pieces of metal. They are the undeniable result of patience, mastery, and a deep, abiding respect for the material he managed to transform. It's a piece of Grom's very soul, left in each and every one of them. He switches off the bellows. The hearth quiets, slowly cooling, and the intense heat gradually dissipates into the morning air. The rich scent of smoke and hot metal slowly fades, giving way to the fresh, cool air of morning, carrying with it the undeniable promise of a brand new day. Grom steps out of the forge, his steps heavy, but not from fatigue. No, but from profound confidence and a deep inner calm. Behind him, the forge rests after its night's labor, quietly preparing for the next cycle of fire and iron. And ahead, a new day that will eagerly welcome his creations and allow them to begin their long, incredibly useful lives. You see, a night shift in the forge isn't just work. It's an ancient, sacred ritual. It's a deep, continuous dialogue between man and the raw elements, between a powerful mind and unrefined matter. It's a time when the outside world, with all its endless hustle, simply recedes, and only the most important, most true things remain. The master, his dedicated craft, and the deep, mesmerizing, eternal rhythm of life, forged by hammer and fire. It's a potent reminder that true value isn't found in loud words, but in quiet, focused labor that creates what serves faithfully and truly, what endures for ages. And in this, there is a special, profound kind of magic. The magic of the night shift, the magic of the forge, the magic of Grom. If you enjoyed this unique glimpse into the ancient, powerful art of smithing, please do me a favor and give this video a big thumbs up. Also, subscribe to our channel right now for more incredible stories just like Grom's. And hey, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think? In the darkest depths of despair, what keeps us from falling into the abyss? What holds us when our legs give out and our hearts are torn apart by weariness and hopelessness? It's the very core that holds the human spirit together, even when it seems all support has crumbled. Often, it's not grand words or heroic deeds, but tiny, almost imperceptible moments of human warmth, silent, deep understanding, and the shared division of the last, most precious thing left. It's a thin, almost invisible thread that connects souls when everything else turns to dust. A spark capable of igniting a flame of hope even in the darkest, most impenetrable gloom that seems to have swallowed the entire world. Imagine a world ravaged by war, twisted by evil beyond recognition, where every step demanded an incredible, inhuman effort. It wasn't just exertion. It was an act of pure will, an unyielding stubbornness in the face of overwhelming despair. The ground beneath their feet was dead, as if burned from within, covered in sharp shards of rock and frozen lava that mercilessly cut their souls. The air here was utterly dead, devoid of life and freshness. It carried no scent of dew, earth, or the freshness of a forest. Instead, it was filled with the acrid smell of burning, smoldering sulfur and something indescribably, pervasively foul that entered their lungs with every painful breath, settling on their tongues with a bitter, astringent taste. The sun was merely a pale, lifeless, dull spot behind a perpetual veil of smoke hanging over the land, resembling an endless funeral shroud cast over a dying world. The horizon was blurred, fading into a gray, suffocating haze, and it seemed there was no beginning or end to this nightmare, that they were lost within it forever. It was in such a world, on the very brink of destruction, when time itself seemed to stand still, and hope was but a faint ghost, that two small hobbits, Frodo and Sam, with their last, barely flickering strength, struggled through these charred, lifeless wastes. Their journey was endless, stretching for unbearable months. Every stone beneath their feet felt like an immense, insurmountable mountain, and every new breath an accomplishment demanding titanic effort. Every cell in their bodies screamed from pain, from exhaustion. Weariness wasn't just a feeling. It had become part of their being, seeping into their bones, into every vein, pressing down on their shoulders with an invisible but unbearably heavy weight, like an unseen colossus. Their feet burned as if they walked on hot coals, and every step resonated with a dull, aching pain in their lower backs, knees, and ankles, as if their bones were ready to crumble. The wind here was different. It was the wind of Mordor, dry, parching, chilling to the bone, knowing neither mercy, nor rest, nor weariness. It howled low, monotonously, like an ancient, dying creature mourning the world, or perhaps conversely, triumphing over its slow, inevitable demise. Its wails became the only constant backdrop to their own heavy, broken, rasping breaths, the sole sound disturbing the dead, oppressive silence of this cursed land. Sometimes, the wind brought tiny, sharp particles of volcanic ash that settled on their clothes, their hair, their eyelashes, their lips, making them even grayer and dustier, even more indistinguishable from the surrounding, lifeless ruin, as if they themselves were becoming part of this dead earth. Finally, as the shadows began to lengthen, stretching into bizarre, menacing shapes dancing on the rocky debris, and their last vestiges of strength utterly deserted them, Frodo stumbled over an unseen ledge, almost collapsing to the ground. He let out only a weak, almost inaudible groan, and Sam, sensing it, instinctively caught him, supporting him with his entire body. In Sam's eyes was reflected the same unbearable weariness as Frodo's, but also an unshakable, steely determination that kept his spirits from falling. Frodo, barely lifting his blurred, emaciated gaze, pointed Sam towards a small, barely noticeable crevice in the massive rock, obscured by a jumble of sharp fragments. It was a faint indentation, promising some elusive, fleeting protection from the merciless, bone-chilling wind and ever-present, unseen eyes. Without a word, Sam, groaning with strain and pain, helped Frodo, offering his already trembling, weakened shoulder to support his exhausted friend. Every combined step, every millimeter of their progress, was an agonizing, deliberate agony. They didn't walk. They dragged themselves, shuffling their feet across the rough stones, like puppets whose strings were about to snap. They stumbled inside, rather collapsing than sitting, leaning their emaciated backs against the cold, rough stone. The sensation of its hardness and coolness was almost a blessing after their endless, debilitating movement. The first few moments were dedicated solely to rest, which felt like a precious gift. Heavy, rasping sighs escaped from deep within their chests, burning their dry, parched throats. Every muscle ached and screamed, every joint protested, begging for respite. Their heads fell back, eyes half closed, eyelids heavy as if filled with lead. Sam, ignoring his own pain, silently and intently examined Frodo, his gaze sweeping over his haggard face, his sunken cheeks, his pale, cracked lips, ensuring that he was relatively all right, that he was still breathing, still present. His gaze was full of unspoken concern, that devotion which needed no words, that endless, selfless love that surpassed any trial. It was a love that could not be expressed in words, only through action and silent presence. Then came a pause. A long, drawn-out, almost palpable pause, filled only by the whisper of the wind outside their shelter and their own faint, broken, yet now steadier breaths. It was a pause when the world around them shrank to the size of the single rock they sat on, and one last, fleeting hope, when all thought processes slowed, leaving only the instinctive desire to survive and a tiny, flickering spark of will. It was in such moments that the true value of simple things, which in other circumstances would not have merited a second glance, truly shone. Sam, as if obeying an invisible impulse, cautiously, as if afraid to awaken a sleeping treasure, lowered his hand into his satchel, which he guarded more carefully than his life. His fingers found something familiar, something that weighed almost nothing, but meant the entire world, not just in terms of physical sustenance, but as a symbol, a last, fragile connection to the world of light, to goodness, to Lothlorien. He retrieved it, slowly, with such incredible care, as if he held something impossibly fragile that might crumble to dust with one wrong move. It was the last, single, precious piece of Lembas, the elvish waybread, a precious gift from Galadriel, the Lady of Light, that had preserved their strength, offered solace, and sustained hope throughout their unthinkable, hardship-filled journey. The Lembas was wrapped in a broad, smooth leaf of a malern tree, the very kind that grows in Lothlorien. The leaf was dried, slightly withered, but still retained that slight, barely perceptible flexibility that kept it from breaking, and a delicate, almost imperceptible woody scent that always reminded them of a distant, lost home, of a world that now seemed only a mirage. Sam slowly, almost ritually, began to unwrap the leaf. His movements were precise, unhurried, as if he were performing the most important task in the world, on which the fate of all existence depended. His fingers delicately lifted the very edge of the leaf, barely touching it, smoothing out every tiny crease, freeing the hidden treasure from its gentle, natural captivity. A faint, dry, but distinct rustle sounded, the barely audible whisper of the malern leaf, so quiet, so delicate, that it was almost imperceptible against the incessant howling wind beating against the rocks. But for the two of them, this sound resonated like an entire symphony, like news from another better world, like a fleeting echo of the beauty they hadn't seen in so long. This sound was a thread connecting them to Lothlorien, to home, to living hope. The Lembas appeared. It was a small, thin wafer, the color of creamy caramel, baked according to ancient elvish recipes kept secret for centuries. On its surface, a faint but distinct pattern was visible, as if etched by the gentle hand of the wind or the skilled, delicate fingers of an elvish craftswoman. In its simple contours lay all the wisdom and light of Lothlorien, all the blessing of the elves, all their ancient, unearthly magic. Even here, in the very shadow of Mount Doom, in the heart of Mordor, the Lembas seemed to emit a faint, inner, barely perceptible glow, casting tiny, barely visible shadows on Sam's emaciated fingers. Its sight was a comfort to eyes weary of the endless gray, black, and ugliness that filled their surrounding world. Sam, his eyes fixed on the Lembas, extended it to Frodo. He didn't offer it with words, didn't ask. He simply held it out, and in that single gesture, everything that needed to be said was conveyed. It encompassed understanding, loyalty, sacrifice, faith in a friend, everything that had bound them throughout this unbearable journey. Frodo slowly raised his gaze. His eyes, usually full of pain, despair, and an unbearable burden, momentarily lit up. Not with joy, but with a deep, all-consuming understanding that was readable in every movement. He looked at the wafer, then at Sam. Words were unnecessary. They would have been superfluous, defiling this precious moment of silent unity. Their silence contained the entire depth of their bond, the entire hardship of their path, and the entire strength of their friendship, unbreakable, forged in the fires of trial. Frodo gently, with the utmost care, as if the Lembas were a fragile glass sphere that could shatter at any moment, took the wafer. His fingers, emaciated, chapped, and trembling with exhaustion, barely felt the warmth of the bread, if any at all emanated from it. He brought it closer, as if inhaling its scent. Though what scent could there be in this cursed, poisoned place where the air was steeped only in death? Perhaps it was merely the scent of memories of fields and forests, the scent of a distant home, the scent of hope that still flickered in the depths of their weary hearts. Then, without raising his eyes, he did what was unspoken but inevitable, predetermined by fate itself, and which was a manifestation of their unbreakable, silent bond. He carefully, with almost jeweler's precision, broke the wafer in half. It was a symbolic division of the last island of peace, the last source of strength, the last reminder of a world they had almost lost. Another faint but distinct sound echoed, a light, dry crunch, like a tiny, delicate branch breaking in a winter forest. It was the sound of dividing the last refuge of hope, but also the sound of their unity. One half remained in his hand. The other half, without looking, he extended to Sam. His hand did not tremble. The gesture was firm and unyielding. Sam accepted it just as silently, just as carefully. He took his share, his piece of hope, his gulp of strength. They held their portions of lembas, each in their hand, not rushing to eat. The very fact of possessing it, the very act of this silent, ancient ritual, was more important than physically satiating their hunger. It was an acknowledgement of their shared fate, their shared struggle, their unbreakable connection. It was a promise that they would see this journey through to the very end, together. The wind howled outside the rock, penetrating the crevice with weak, chilling gusts. Its wails intensified, then subsided, like the breath of a giant dormant beast, or the voice of the abyss itself, trying to swallow them. Sometimes it whistled through narrow rock fissures, creating ghostly, mournful melodies full of longing and hopelessness. But inside their shelter, in that moment, there was nothing but this strange, deep calm. A calm born from complete exhaustion, from the unbearable proximity to the end of their journey, from the realization that they had already come so far that they simply needed to rest, if only for a brief moment. Frodo was the first to bring his half of the lembas to his mouth. He bit off a small piece, very slowly, with dignity, as if savoring not the taste, but the very essence of this bread, its inexpressible, almost mystical life-giving power. There was no greedy devouring, no haste, no convulsive movements, only an unhurried, conscious act, every millimeter of which was filled with profound meaning. He chewed slowly, feeling the lembas melt on his tongue, spreading tiny, barely perceptible, but persistent waves of warmth, leaving a faint, sweet aftertaste, reminiscent of honey and fresh-baked goods, of the long-forgotten taste of home-cooked food. Sam followed his example, just as slowly, with the same dignity, as if it were not just food, but a holy communion, bestowing not only physical, but also spiritual strength. And although the lembas could not fully restore their strength, nor satiate their bottomless, burning hunger and parching thirst, it bestowed something far greater, something invaluable. It gave them inner fortitude, a warmth that spread through their veins, temporarily banishing the cold and despair. It wasn't just bread. It was a memory of goodness, of light, of home. It was a promise that even here, in the very shadow of evil, good still existed, that it had not been completely destroyed, and that it was still capable of giving them strength, giving them hope for tomorrow. It was a tiny anchor in the raging dark ocean of Mordor, keeping them afloat. They sat, chewing slowly, feeling the tiny, barely perceptible particles of lembas melt on their tongues, leaving behind only a light, weightless, sweet aftertaste. There were no sounds, save for the distant, muffled howl of the wind rushing past, and the barely audible, ghostly rustle of the dried malern leaf that Sam had carefully placed beside him. This rustle was like a pulse, a barely living reminder that life continued, even by a thread, even in the very heart of darkness. Their eyes met. There were no words, no sorrow or bitterness, only a deep, all-consuming, absolute understanding that transcended any language barriers and expressed more than 1,000 words. They were together in this hell, and they had shared the last wafer, the last hope. This was enough. This was more than enough. This was all that mattered in that moment. For a brief, ephemeral moment, the world around them ceased to exist. There was no Mordor, no all-powerful Sauron, no all-consuming influence of the ring. There were only two hobbits, sitting in a narrow crevice, sharing the last piece of hope, supporting each other, not with words, not with encouraging gestures, but only with their silent presence, their breaths merging into a single, faint whole. And in that silence was a strength capable of carrying them another step, another breath, another morning. When the lembas was eaten to the last crumb, they did not move. They continued to sit, pressed against the cold stone, listening to the wind and their own hearts, which, despite everything, continued to beat in unison, like a single organism. Their strength did not return completely, but a certain peace settled upon them, a temporary calm before a new storm, before another agonizing stretch of their journey. The silence between them was not empty. It was filled with everything they had endured together, every shared step, every minute of suffering, every second of hope, and everything that lay ahead. It was filled with the unbreakable bond of two souls destined to go to the very end, no matter the cost. This was their quiet respite, their tiny island of peace in the boundless, dark ocean of despair, a place where the last piece of bread became a sacred thing, and silence, the most eloquent declaration of love and loyalty that had ever existed. And as night fully enveloped the land, bringing with it piercing cold and pre-dawn darkness, they closed their eyes, carrying with them the warmth and strength of the last lembas, to endure until a new, unknown dawn, which they believed could still be reached if they held on together. If you found this story of resilience and friendship moving, please give this video a like, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to our channel for more tales that explore the depths of the human spirit. What does it truly mean to merge with the wild, to become a part of it, not just a guest? Imagine a world with no roads, no signposts, not even worn paths, just endless forests, winding rivers, majestic mountains, and an absolute silence broken only by the voices of nature. A world where every rustle of a leaf, every gust of wind carries vital information, and survival depends solely on your skill, intuition, and a deep understanding of the unwritten laws of this wild, untamed land. It is in such a pristine world that our hero, known as the Strider, lives and moves. He isn't just an ordinary traveler. He is a true master of survival, a man whose roots, it seems, have grown deep into this ancient earth, like the mighty oaks that have stood unyielding for centuries against the elements, steadfastly enduring storms and hardships. His connection with the surrounding world is so strong that he perceives it not as a backdrop, but as a living entity with whom he is in constant dialogue. Today, we delve into one such evening, as the fiery sun dips towards the horizon, painting the skies of Eriador in incredible crimson and golden hues, and the strider begins his evening preparations for the long and unpredictable night ahead. This isn't merely a story about someone mechanically pitching a tent or building a fire. It's a deep, meditative immersion into a meticulously honed ritual, perfected over years of endless wandering through wild lands. It's the art of living in absolute harmony with nature, using only what she generously offers, and relying solely on one's own strength, knowledge, and ancient instincts. Believe me, this is something incomparably greater than just setting up camp. It's an entire ceremony, an act of profound respect for nature and one's place within it. The sun has finally dropped below the horizon, and the last, barely perceptible rays dance on the very tops of ancient fir trees, casting long, ominous shadows that stretch out like dark fingers. The air in the forest grows noticeably cooler, and the strider feels this subtle, almost mystical arrival of twilight, not only on his skin, but with every fiber of his being, every cell of his body. He had walked non-stop all day, crossing marshy bogs, climbing steep hills, his gait surprisingly light and almost silent, despite the long and arduous journey. Unlike an ordinary, inexperienced traveler, his gaze did not wander idly in search of picturesque landscapes. He constantly and intently scanned the surrounding terrain, like an experienced predator purposefully seeking an ideal shelter, a safe den. He was looking not just for a temporary stop, but a perfect refuge, a sanctuary where he could not just spend the night, but truly rest deeply, fully restore his strength, while remaining invisible and maximally protected from all possible threats of the wild. And then, his experienced, trained eye finally caught a seemingly insignificant detail that instantly drew his attention. A small depression in the earth, located beneath an overhanging rock ledge. It wasn't a full-fledged cave, but rather a natural niche formed by the passage of time and the relentless forces of nature. You'll immediately understand why his conscious choice fell precisely on this unassuming yet perfectly suitable spot. First, it was reliably sheltered from the piercing wind that could otherwise chill him to the bone in an open area. Second, the massive rock served as a natural heat reflector, promising to retain the precious warmth of a fire. And third, which was extremely important for his safety, there was a small but dense thicket nearby that could serve as excellent additional camouflage from curious eyes or potentially undesirable encounters with wild animals or even people. Not far away, slightly down the slope, the strider heard the faint but distinct gurgle of a stream, another critically important criterion for an ideal place to spend the night. Water is the basis of life, and its immediate proximity significantly simplifies staying in the wilderness, eliminating the need for long searches. Upon arriving at the chosen spot, the strider showed not the slightest hint of haste. His movements were remarkably economical and precise, each action honed to absolute perfection by years of practice. First, he thoroughly inspected the interior of the shelter, checking for any undesirable inhabitants, ensuring the ground was sufficiently dry and suitable for sleeping. Then, crouching down, he began to methodically and carefully clear the area. Small stones, dried branches, pine cones, all were meticulously and systematically moved aside, piled neatly. This was not just ordinary tidying. It was the creation of a personal, sanctified space, preparing a place for complete rest and rejuvenation. He carefully cleared a circle about a meter in diameter, then dug a small pit in the very center of this circle, shallow, only about 10 centimeters deep. This was done to make the fire more controllable and less smoky, and to prevent its precious flame from being carried by the wind, creating a fire hazard. Every such step was a demonstration of deep care and respect for the place that would temporarily become his home. After this, it was time for the most important element of a successful overnight stay: gathering firewood. This is a crucial element of survival, for on it directly depends life-giving warmth, salvational light, and, of course, the ability to cook food. The Strider did not simply grab the first branches he found, as an inexperienced novice would. He knew exactly that building a good, long-lasting fire required different types of wood, each with its own purpose. First, he went in search of the driest tinder, thin, brittle twigs that would ignite instantly from the slightest spark. He searched for them under fallen trees, in places protected from rain and moisture, such as rock crevices, or beneath the dense, impenetrable canopy of firs. These twigs, no thicker than a pencil, were his reliable tinder, the foundation for ignition. He carefully gathered them into a small bundle, taking care that they did not get wet from dew or condensation, preserving their fragile dryness. Next came the kindling. These were slightly thicker branches, about the size of a finger. The Strider found them on the lower, dead branches of trees, which, decaying, remain dry and break easily, ideal for quickly igniting a flame. He chose only those that were not covered in moss, without any signs of rot, clean and dry. Finally, the most important, fuel. These were larger logs that would burn for a long time, providing stable and powerful heat throughout the night. He searched for them among fallen, but not yet rotten trees, carefully inspecting them for suitability. He preferred hardwoods, such as oak or maple, which produce significantly more heat and much less smoke, which is especially important in a sheltered spot. He used pine and spruce branches in moderation, as they tend to crackle and throw sparks, which is not always safe and also produce much more smoke. He meticulously checked each piece of wood for dryness by tapping it. Dry wood emits a clear, ringing sound, while damp wood produces a dull, muffled one. All the collected firewood the Strider stacked near his temporary shelter, carefully sorting it by size so that each piece lay in its proper place. Finally, the time came for the most important sacrament, the heart of the entire ritual: making fire. The Strider did not carry modern matches, or, even less, a lighter, which could fail at the most inopportune moment. His faithful and time-tested tools were flint and steel, ancient, reliable companions for any traveler in the wild, untamed wilderness. He took them from his sturdy leather pouch, where they were carefully kept along with a small piece of dry tinder, usually carefully prepared char cloth from a previous fire, dry punkwood, or specially treated cotton. He carefully placed the tinder on a flat stone, ensuring it was reliably protected from the slightest breath of wind that could extinguish a spark. Then, firmly but gracefully holding the flint, the Strider struck it with force and precision with the steel, directing a shower of sparks directly onto the center of the tinder. With the first strike, or perhaps the second, a barely noticeable but living red dot flashed on the black, tiny ember. It slowly but surely grew, like a living creature that had just breathed life, awakening from sleep. The Strider bent over it, cupping his hands to shield it from any, even the lightest gust of wind, protecting the nascent life. He began to gently, very gently blow on the smoldering tinder, slowly and evenly, like a breathing forest fairy imparting her life force. His breath was incredibly tender, yet persistent, carefully supplying oxygen to the glowing spark. The smoke grew thicker, and the tiny red dot became brighter and brighter, pulsating with life. Then he carefully transferred the smoldering tinder into a pre-prepared nest, woven from the finest, dry, cobweb-like twigs and dry leaves. A few more careful, measured breaths, and then, first a weak, then an increasingly confident tongue of flame burst forth, licking the dry moss like a hungry beast. It was a moment of triumph, though not a single muscle on the Strider's face twitched. Just deep satisfaction from a flawlessly executed task, an awareness of his mastery and control. The first small, playful tongues of flame danced, casting flickering, ghostly shadows on the shelter walls, creating a living play of light and shadow. The Strider began to methodically add the thinnest twigs to the fire, gradually, step by step, increasing their size, following the unwritten laws of the campfire. First, dry grass and leaves, then thin sticks, then twigs the thickness of a finger. He watched the fire as a living, breathing entity, with a deep understanding that it could not be smothered by too much wood, but also could not be allowed to die out. Otherwise, all the effort would be in vain. The crackling grew louder. The smell of smoke filled the cool evening air, mixing with the aroma of damp earth, fallen needles, and tree resin. When the fire gained full strength, the Strider began to add larger logs, forming a neat pyramid, or teepee, to ensure ideal air circulation and maximum combustion. From each branch, from each log, emanated its own special, unique history, its ancient energy, which was now transforming into life-giving warmth and salvational light. While the fire blazed, becoming a reliable source of warmth and light, the Strider set about arranging his sleeping place. He headed into the forest again, but this time with a completely different purpose and perspective. He needed effective insulation from the cold, frozen ground, which could drain all the heat from his body. He began collecting fallen fir boughs. They are remarkably soft, absolutely dry, and perfectly insulate against the cold, creating a comfortable layer. He also gathered heaps of dry leaves, forming a thick, lush mattress from them that served as an excellent pillow for sleep. Each layer was placed tightly, forming something akin to a cozy nest, capable of protecting him from the night's chill. On top, he spread his worn but still reliable cloak, which had served him faithfully, functioning as a blanket, a shelter from the wind, and even camouflage when necessary. The spot was chosen so that the fire was at a safe distance, eliminating the risk of ignition, yet still provided enough warmth, enveloping him. He also placed his knapsack under his head, using it as a comfortable pillow, perfectly adapted to his height. Everything was extremely simple, functional, and perfectly adapted to the harsh conditions of the wilderness, without a single superfluous detail. As complete, impenetrable darkness descended, the forest came alive in a completely different way, revealing its nocturnal secrets. The daytime sounds died down, and in their place came mysterious night sounds. The Strider sat by the fire, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames, as if on a hypnotic dance, but his ears were strained, catching every rustle, every faint sound. The distant, piercing cry of an owl, a soft, deep hoot echoing through the forest like a ghostly calling voice. The rustle of leaves as a light, barely perceptible breeze crept through the dense tree canopies. The quiet snap of a twig somewhere in the distance. Perhaps it was a cautious rabbit, or perhaps something larger, stealthily moving in the shadows. The Strider knew how to read these sounds, to distinguish their meanings, to understand what they told him. This was not just a skill, it was his second nature, an instinct that had developed and sharpened over long years of living on the very edge of survival. He knew that fear of the unknown was a luxury he could not afford, for fear paralyzes and robs one of the ability to act. Instead, he felt only deep respect and even reverence for the majesty and unpredictability of the wild. By the fire, the Strider took out his modest but nutritious provisions. He never carried luxurious feasts or unnecessary items. Typically, it was dried venison, hard cheese, and hardtack. Simple but high-calorie food. He took out a small kettle, filled it with crystal-clear water from the stream, and carefully placed it on specially chosen stones near the fire for the water to heat up. Warm herbal tea, brewed from forest herbs, was the best end to a long and eventful day. He took his time. Each sip was savored like the greatest treasure, bringing comfort. This was not just food to satisfy hunger. It was a replenishment of strength, a deep, unbreakable connection with the earth that nourished him and provided him with much-needed shelter. In the absolute silence of the night, broken only by the measured crackling of smoldering logs and rare, barely audible sounds of the forest, the Strider felt not lonely, but rather at peace. This was his element, his true home, where he was truly himself. Stargazing is another integral part of his daily, almost sacred ritual. Far from the bright city lights, an incredible, mesmerizing canvas of the Milky Way unfolded above the forest, stretching from horizon to horizon. Myriads of stars seemed to hang so low that one could almost reach out and touch them, feel their ancient glow. Each sparkling point on this vast celestial carpet told its own ancient story, holding the secrets of ages. The Strider knew many of them, navigating by them as if by the most precise map, charting his path through unfamiliar lands. The stars were his silent guides, his accurate clock, and his reliable calendar, determining the passage of time. They reminded him of the world's infinity and his own humble place within it, a small but important part of a vast, majestic universe that nevertheless had its purpose and destiny. In such moments, he felt part of something much greater, something eternal and unchanging, part of creation itself. The campfire's flame gradually subsided, turning into smoldering, red embers that continued to radiate a soft, pulsating warmth, heating the air around. The Strider threw on a few last logs to ensure the fire would last until morning, providing minimal warmth, then wrapped himself more tightly in his faithful cloak, feeling its protection. A light breeze rustled the leaves overhead, creating a lulling whisper, as if nature was singing him a lullaby. The sounds of the forest did not frighten him. Rather, they soothed him, bringing peace. He knew he was not alone here, but at the same time, he was completely safe, protected by his experience and intuition. His keen hearing would catch the slightest signs of danger, but now, all was calm and peaceful. Only the peaceful, ancient silence of the night enveloped everything. Such nights, under the stars, far from the hustle and bustle of civilization, teach us incredible, profound things. They teach humility before the power and majesty of nature, teach us to appreciate the simplest yet vital things. The warmth of a fire, a sip of clean water, dry ground beneath us. They develop intuition, sharpen the senses, and return us to our primal, forgotten instincts, which are so often suppressed in the modern world. In a noisy, constantly distracting world where everything beckons and diverts, finding such a corner of peace, feeling at one with the surrounding world, this is truly an invaluable experience that changes a person. The Strider, or Aragorn, as he would later be called, gained in these vast forests not only incredible endurance and physical strength, but also the deepest wisdom, a true understanding of life that cannot be obtained within the stuffy walls of cities. He became the voice of the forest, its reliable guardian, a man who drew strength from the very earth he walked upon, sensing its vibrations. You see, when you watch the Strider in movies or read about him in books, these brief, mundane moments of setting up camp often remain off-screen, overlooked. But it is precisely in them that the entire essence of his character lies, his deepest, unbreakable connection with the world, his amazing survivability. Every step, every movement, every decision he makes, these are not just actions. They are the result of thousands of such nights, thousands of such campfires, thousands of similar lessons learned from nature. He doesn't just survive. He thrives in this wild, pristine beauty, finding meaning in it. His actions are not a set of mechanical techniques or memorized skills, but an almost sacred ritual, a deep homage to the earth and its unchanging laws, which he has grasped with his whole being. Morning greeted the Strider with cool freshness and a light, milky mist that crept along the lowlands, enveloping the trees. The fire had almost burned out, leaving behind only a handful of warm ash and a few glowing embers, barely visible. He rose quietly, his movements smooth and utterly silent, like a forest animal unwilling to disturb the morning's peace. His first action was to thoroughly check the remains of the fire, ensuring that everything was absolutely safe and there were no threats of smoldering sparks that could ignite a dangerous forest fire. He carefully stirred the ashes with a stick, making sure everything was completely cool and posed no threat, then covered it with earth, leaving behind only minimal, barely perceptible traces of his presence. Leave nothing but footprints, take nothing but pictures, is a modern rule. But for the Strider, this was a way of life he followed long before cameras and such slogans existed. He quickly tidied his sleeping place, neatly folded his cloak, and put away his few belongings. Each item had its strictly defined place in his knapsack. This allowed him to always know exactly where everything was, and to act quickly and efficiently in any, even the most critical situation. No unnecessary fuss, no carelessness or disorganization. Every piece of his gear was vital and deserved respect, as an indispensable part of his survival. The Strider's last glance swept over the spot where he had spent the night. The rock, the stream, the ancient trees, everything remained as it had been before his arrival. The only thing indicating his presence was a barely perceptible flattened area where his campfire had been. But even that would very quickly disappear under the influence of wind, rain, and the relentless forest life, leaving no trace. He was not just a guest. He was a part of this place, its temporary guardian, who came to find refuge and left without disturbing nature's fragile balance. Stepping out of his temporary shelter, the Strider took a deep breath of the morning air, fresh, crystal clear, filled with the invigorating scents of pine, damp earth, and freshly unfurling buds promising spring. The sun was gradually rising above the horizon, painting the sky in soft pink and golden tones, heralding a new day. A new day brought with it new trials and new paths, but the Strider was fully prepared. He was rested, full of strength. His mind was clear, and his body ready for new adventures, for new challenges. It is in such nights under the stars, in the solitude of the wild, that the Strider found not only physical refuge, but also deep spiritual balance, true peace. This was his school of life, his temple, his inexhaustible source of strength and wisdom. These were the invaluable moments that shaped him as a person, made him the Aragorn we know and love. Wise, resilient, capable of standing against any darkness and any adversity. The art of wilderness survival is not just a set of practical skills. It is an entire philosophy, a way of life that allows a person to truly understand their place in this vast and amazing world. This is a story not only about the Strider, but also about each of us, about our subconscious yearning for harmony with nature, for self-sufficiency, and for understanding the true value of silence and solitude, which our souls so desperately need. So, the next time you find yourself in nature, try to put aside all gadgets. Let go of thoughts about the hustle and bustle. Listen to the rustling of the forest. Feel the scent of the earth. Touch the bark of a tree. Feel its life. Perhaps you too will hear echoes of that ancient wisdom that the Strider so deeply understood during his countless nights under the stars of Eriador. This was just one evening out of thousands, but it reveals the full depth of his character and his amazing, unbreakable connection to the wild, untamed world. If you enjoyed this story, please support the channel with a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps us create new videos.